Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're really excited to dig into a book that I think has a ton of practical advice
Yeah,
that we can all use. Level Up by Rob Dial.
absolutely. Level Up is a great book.
And as always, we are not sponsored or anything like that.
Sure.
This is just a book that we think is really worth taking a look at.
It is.
And yeah, I guess just diving right into it. One of the things that kind of blew my mind
Okay.
is that Dial says that we're only born with two fears.
Two fears.
Yeah, the fear of falling,
No,
the loud noises,
Okay.
and literally every other fear
Yeah.
we learn.
That's incredible when you think about it.
Isn't that wild?
Like all the anxieties we carry around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's built into us.
Right.
We pick it up along the way.
Right. And so that to me was just a huge
Yeah. It makes you rethink things.
yeah, if we can learn it, can we unlearn it?
Exactly.
And he goes on to talk about how a lot of what we're anxious about are echoes of past experiences, not actual threats in the present.
Yeah.
So if we can identify what those are,
Right.
then maybe we can start to unlearn
Unlearn them.
those fears.
I like that.
He uses this really good analogy
Okay.
about a lion in a bathtub.
A lion in a bathtub.
Yeah. So imagine you walk into your bathroom
Right.
and there's just a lion chilling in your tub.
Oh my gosh, I would freak out.
That would be terrifying.
Absolutely.
But that fear is based on the idea of a lion.
The potential danger.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not an actual threat at that moment.
It's not actually attacking you.
Right.
It's just there.
Yeah. It's not
It's
lunging
there.
at you or anything.
Right.
But we still have that fear response.
Yeah, because it could.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so he uses that to illustrate how fear can distort our perception.
I see.
And keep us from doing the things.
Makes you freeze up.
Yeah. So then he goes on to talk about primal fears
Okay, primal fear.
versus intellectual fears,
Oh.
which I thought was interesting.
So what's the distinction there?
So primal fears are those hardwired ones
Okay.
that we're born with,
Got it.
like the fear of falling
Yeah.
or a loud noise.
Right.
Those trigger that instant
You're
fight or flight.
Okay.
And then intellectual fears are
These are more thought out fears.
they're or
Yeah,
napping
from
fears.
fears.
Yeah, the imagined ones.
Yeah.
But he says that our brains often react the same way
Oh, wow.
to both types.
So even if it's not a real threat,
Right.
my body's going to react the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
So whether it's a lion in the bathtub
Right.
or a presentation at work,
Uh-huh.
our heart races. We start sweating.
Yeah, we get that adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with intellectual fears, there's no actual
Right.
saber-toothed tiger.
There's no real danger.
Yeah.
It's just our thoughts.
Right.
Interesting.
And so I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, it puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've tackled our fear of imaginary lions.
All right, so what's next?
But Dial doesn't stop there.
Okay.
He goes on to say that we all have this story.
A story?
Yeah, that's playing in our heads.
Oh, like a narrative.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often on autopilot.
We don't even realize it.
Yeah, and it shapes how we see ourselves in the world.
Oh, that's interesting.
Have you ever thought about
Yeah.
what your internal narrative is?
I'm sure we all have one. We just don't really think about it
Yeah.
actively.
Yeah, and so this story
Mm-hmm.
is a collection of beliefs,
Okay.
assumptions,
Yeah.
narratives that we've internalized over time.
Like throughout our lives.
Right.
Okay.
It comes from our childhood.
Yeah.
Our experiences, societal messages.
Right. Everything we've been exposed to.
Shapes that story.
And it acts like this mental script
Oh,
that dictates how we interact with the world.
interesting.
So Dial says, you're not actually who you think you are,
Okay.
but who you think other people think you are.
Whoa.
It's like we're constantly looking.
So it's not even our own perception of ourselves.
Right.
It's what we think other people think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Which can be super limiting.
Right, because if we have this idea
Yeah.
that people see us in a negative light,
Right.
then we're going to act accordingly.
Right. Like if our story is full of self-doubt,
Mhm.
I'm not good enough.
Like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I'll never succeed.
Mhm.
Then we'll often act in ways that confirm that belief.
Wow, that's powerful.
And this actually reminds me of a friend from high school.
Okay.
He grew up in a family that struggled financially,
Mm-hmm.
and he always joked about being broke.
Okay.
It was almost part of his identity.
Yeah, like a badge of honor almost.
And-
Yeah. And you know what?
What happened?
Even though he was smart and capable,
Yeah.
he stayed broke for years.
It's like he was trapped in that story.
Yeah, like he couldn't break free.
That's a great example of how that narrative can really affect your life.
So what Dial is challenging us to do is to examine those narratives that we carry around.
Yeah.
What's your story?
That's a big question.
And is it empowering you?
Yeah. Are you the hero or the victim?
Or is it holding you back?
That's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
I think we've given people a lot to think about already.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about like getting rid of the bad stuff, you know? It's also about figuring out what we want.
Yeah, what we actually want. And I love that Dial talks about having a strong why.
Oh, yeah.
And he uses this analogy of trying to hit a target blindfolded.
Oh, wow.
If you don't know where you're aiming, you're probably not going to hit anything.
Right.
So that's where purpose comes in.
Purpose, yeah.
He talks about this Japanese concept called ikigai.
Ikigai.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't know like the specifics of it.
It basically translates to like a reason for being.
Oh, okay.
And it's about finding that sweet spot where your passions and your skills and your values and like what the world needs all intersect.
Oh, wow. So it's kind of like that Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Everything overlaps.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like when you're doing something that aligns with your ikigai, you're going to feel a sense of purpose and fulfillment.
I like that.
So how do we actually like discover our own ikigai?
Well, Dial says there are 4 key questions.
Okay.
What do you love?
Okay.
What are you good at?
Okay.
What can you be paid for? And what does the world need?
Okay.
So it's kind of like looking at those different aspects and figuring out where they all come together.
I can see how that would be like a really valuable exercise.
Absolutely.
Not even just for like career stuff.
Right. For life in general.
Yeah.
Figuring out what's important to you.
Yeah. And then once you have that clarity, that strong sense of purpose, Dial talks about the power of visualization.
Visualization.
Yeah. And I know some people might think that's a little woo-woo.
Yeah, I can see that.
But he actually like grounds it in science.
Oh, okay. So there's actual science behind it.
Yeah. He explains how it taps into our brain's reticular activating system.
What is that?
It's often called the RAS.
Oh.
And it's basically like our brain's filter.
So it filters out all the unnecessary information.
It determines like what we notice and what we prioritize.
Got it.
So like, for example, let's say you're thinking about buying a new car.
Okay.
A red convertible.
All right. A red convertible.
Suddenly you start seeing red convertibles everywhere.
Oh, yeah. That's true, actually.
That's your RAS at work.
It's like it's honing in on that specific detail.
It's tuned into that information.
Okay.
Because you brought it to the forefront of your mind.
So when we visualize our goals, we're essentially telling our brain to pay attention to things related to that.
Like, hey, this is important.
Yeah.
Look out for this.
Interesting.
And he emphasizes like engaging all 5 senses.
All 5 senses.
When you visualize.
Wow.
Like make it as real as possible.
All right. So don't just like see it in your mind.
Right.
But like really feel it.
Yeah. Like I actually had this experience when I was living in London.
Okay.
I was obsessed with moving to Rome.
Oh, nice.
And I would spend hours like visualizing it.
Okay.
I could practically taste the pasta.
That's odd.
Hear the Vespas buzzing around.
Yeah.
Smell the laundry hanging from the balconies.
Oh, it sounds like you were really immersed in it.
Yeah. And when I finally got to Rome, it was like I was stepping into a familiar dream.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It's so cool.
So it's like you were already preparing your brain for that experience.
Yeah. And it just shows you how powerful visualization can be.
Absolutely.
Like by engaging all your senses.
Yeah.
You're basically creating a neural pathway in your brain.
So it's like almost pre-programming your brain for success.
And making that desired outcome feel more attainable.
I like that.
But visualization alone can only take us so far, right?
Right. You got to actually
At some point we need to
take action.
Yeah.
So what does he say about that?
So he's very practical about it.
Okay.
And this is where his concept of micro actions comes in.
Micro action.
Yeah, it's about breaking down those like big, overwhelming goals into smaller, manageable steps.
Okay. So it's not about like trying to do everything at once.
Right. It's like...
It's about those little steps.
Yeah. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Exactly.
So it's about focusing on those consistent bite-sized actions that over time lead to significant progress.
Okay.
But of course, we all face that battle
Yeah.
between instant gratification and delayed gratification.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like choosing the donut over the salad.
The Netflix binge over the workout.
Yes, exactly.
It's tough.
It's so hard.
But he tells this really moving story about a man who was struggling with his weight and his health.
Okay.
And he just couldn't find the motivation to change. Yeah. But then he realized that his unhealthy habits were putting him at risk of leaving his children fatherless.
Oh, wow.
And that, like,
that's a big
reframed everything for him.
Yeah.
You know, it suddenly made the consequences much more real.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. So that fear of the future, of not being there for his kids, became a stronger motivator than the immediate pleasure of unhealthy choices.
That's a good point.
And Dial says it really well. Okay.
He says life can either be easy now and hard later, or hard now and easy later.
That's a good quote.
So it's about making those choices that align with our long-term vision, even if they require more effort in the present.
Yeah. And so to make taking action even easier, Dial delves into the science of habit formation.
Habit formation.
Yeah, because our brains, they crave shortcuts.
Yeah.
And habits are essentially neural shortcuts that make behaviors automatic.
So if we can create good habits,
exactly,
it'll just become second nature.
Yeah. So how do we actually build those positive habits?
So he talks about identifying a clear cue, a routine, and a reward system. And this helps the brain create that neural shortcut, making the desired action feel more effortless over time.
Yeah, that makes it seem less overwhelming, right?
Absolutely. And Dial even gives us a specific technique called habit stacking.
Habit stack. Have you heard of that one?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't really remember.
Okay, so basically you attach a new habit to an existing one. So for example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, you could try adding like a 2-minute meditation right after. So you're kind of like...
Yeah, you're using that existing routine to make it easier to add the new one.
Instead of creating a whole new habit from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
It makes it much easier.
Yeah, it feels less daunting.
Yeah. And you know what I find really inspiring about Dial's book? Is that he doesn't present self-improvement as like a destination.
Oh.
It's an ongoing journey.
Oh, I like that.
Like a continuous process.
It's not like we just arrived and we're done.
Not like checking a box.
Right.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving and growing.
Right.
And Dial compares it to cleaning a mirror. You have to keep polishing it because it gets dusty again. I love that analogy.
That's a good one.
We might achieve a certain level of success, but life throws new curveballs at us.
Always.
And we have to adapt.
And grow.
Right.
And that's where he talks about neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to like rewire itself based on our actions.
So that's really encouraging.
It is, because it means that even if we feel stuck, we can change.
We have the power.
We do.
Okay, so we have the power to change.
Yeah.
But how do we make that change last?
Well, Dial talks a lot about dopamine, and not just as this like feel-good chemical, but as a tool for motivation and habit formation.
Interesting.
So he suggests creating a dopamine reward system.
A dopamine reward system.
Yeah, so we're kind of like hacking our brain's reward system.
So instead of getting that dopamine hit from scrolling social media.
Right, or eating junk food.
Yeah.
We can intentionally trigger it by celebrating our progress.
So, like, I don't have to feel bad about celebrating small wins.
Celebrate those wins because it reinforces that positive behavior.
I love that.
It's like gamifying self-improvement. Instead of it feeling like a chore, you're actually having fun with it.
Okay, so what's the one question that Dial wants us to really think about?
Okay, so he asks, what would your ideal self be doing differently right now?
Wow. That's a good one.
Makes you think.
It does.
It challenges us to take action.
So what can we do right now?
Yeah, what's one small step?
Yeah, to move in that direction.
Even if it's just like making a phone call or
choosing the salad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those small actions add up over time.
Yeah, it was such a great deep dive into Level Up.
It's a fantastic book.
I feel like I have so many tools now for creating positive change.
It's all about those daily choices that lead to those amazing transformations.
So keep leveling up.
Keep experimenting.
Diving deep.
Until next time.
So yeah.